Words of Wisdom is brought to you by Essentia Health and TV3 and LB Video Productions.
I'm Don Getz. I'm 95 years old. Born on a farm between Barnesville and Wolverton, and we farmed there. Then I had two twin brothers. They were 8 years younger than I.
What are your parents and siblings' names?
Leonard, Herman, Carl Getz, German, two middle names. My mother was Ann Rader, both Germans. Okay. And my twin brothers were Richard and Robert Getz, of course, and they farmed. And I lost Richard in '03 and Robert in '07. My grandmother, my dad's mother, when I was younger, she lost her husband, lived on a farm at Wolverton. I was out there a lot, stayed with her, and just helped her with things. My mom's folks, yes, I've known, they were the Raiders. They lived in Sabin area, then they moved to Felton, Minnesota. My granddaughter, we sit down, she calls me Papa Don. We sit down, she says, I want to ask you how it was growing up on the farm. And what I tell her, she doesn't believe. Oh, it couldn't have been that way. I said, that's the way it was. You know, for years we didn't have electricity. We didn't have, you know, a lot of things change. And, well, how did you get along? Well, before we had the refrigerator, and I'm going way back now, even before you'd remember. So we'd butcher, we'd smoke ham and bacon, and we'd put them in a grain bin in oats to keep them cool. And then our well, we had a little place underneath the well, which is cool. And Dad would put the butter, the milk in there. And one day my brother said, Don, come here, look. Dad's got beer down there. Oh, so that was the end of that. All the farms are small. Farmer would get behind, we'd help. That doesn't seem to happen anymore, but it was different. No TV, until '53, I think. You listen to the radio, and a lot of family reunions. We'd always get together and just played cards, and then before we had our combine thrashing, the neighbor had the equipment, so he thrashed for 5 farmers. And my mother, we had 2 hired men. Don't ask me how she did it. Breakfast, morning lunch, noon, afternoon lunch, and supper. Plus, doing all the baking, all the clothes. I don't know how she ever got it done. But we had the wood stove. Never had a bad meal, neither. But life was completely different. We'd always get together, all of us, which was great, and that doesn't happen. My mom's brothers would come out there, and she was 11 in her family, and 2 sets of twins. She was a twin, and then she had twins, my 2 brothers, and just life changed. Well, at that time, a farmer a couple miles from us had a big barn, a lot of barn dances. And of course, we were not as old as we should have been, so we did things we shouldn't have done. We did, and that was great, that was fun. And that's where a lot of people would all get together and just have a good time. I went to school in Wolverton. First of all, I went to 8 years to a country school, 2 miles from our farm, and either rode the bicycle there, or we had a barn, we had horses there. Some of us would ride horses to school. It was, you know, and everybody says hot lunch. Well, we had hot lunches. We had the wood stove in the school, and we'd put our potatoes wrapped on there, and hot chocolate. And I'm going way back. And then I went to high school in Wolverton. I graduated from high school in Wolverton.
So what did you have on your farm?
We had cattle. We had a couple of horses when we used horses. we had hogs, we had chickens, and I'll never forget my two brothers, 6 years old. Dad bought them each a BB gun. The next morning, there was not a window left in the chicken house. That was not a good day. We farmed with horses when we got our first tractor. And at that time, we had trouble getting tires, trouble getting gas, the rationing at that time. We had, I forget what the cards were called, you had to use some cards to get this, get that, get that. Even for gas to farm, we had a big gas tank out there, which was always filled up. And my two brothers were, as they were getting a little older, they would go out on Saturday with the car. They'd come back about 11 o'clock, go and fill the car up and go again. And Dad always wondered, how come that gas thing is always empty? But,
And you farm, what, did you farm grain or what did you farm?
we had corn, wheat, barley, flax. We were not in the sugar beets at that time. In Barnesville, and we went to Wolverton because I was only 6 miles away. We had a couple of grocery stores in Wolverton. And you probably heard the song Wolverton Mountain on the radio. Okay, we had a bar there too, you know. And when I first, I don't know how, I was pretty young then, we belonged to a Missouri Synod church out in the country. All the farmers around there seemed to be there. And when I went with my gal I married, took her to church one day, and that's when the guys would sit on one side of the church, women on the other. I walked in, she said, go sit with my mother. So, and that's the way it was then. And just because Dad sat there with his arm around you, it didn't really mean that he really cared, but he'd snap you on the ear if you went to sleep. Well, then they joined the church in Wolverton, ELC, and that was completely different for them.
Do you remember any severe weather? What were the winters like?
On the farm, we had gravel roads. We didn't have tar roads at that time. And we would get a lot of snow. I remember Dad, from the house to the light pole to the barn, a rope. That's how we could see. And there was so much snow. And then we had on the roads, the plow would come, and they were rotors. A bunch of farmers would come over with shovels on the snow banks and have to kind of on the road so they could blow the snow off the road. And the mail carrier used to come with horses.
Really?
And deliver the mail. And my dad, we lived 12 miles from Barnesville. He would take a team of horses, throw a bunch of milk and everything, and go to Barnesville to the creamery and trade for different things. And then he also would work, and I think it was WPA at that time it was called. And this was in the wintertime. He went and they were working on a road about 4 miles from home, and it was cold. Mom would pack him a lunch, and he'd go there and work. A bunch of them used to work.
What is WPA?
Well, it was a work project. It was not only kind of all over the state of Minnesota. I'm sure other states had it too. But it gave him some extra money.
What do you miss the most about being a kid?
Oh, being younger. I guess a lot of the memories, going back, where we had a lot of time, it was fun. The whole family would always get together. My mom's brothers and sisters and Dad's brothers and sisters would always get together. I talked to my two grandkids, and that stuff doesn't happen anymore. They just, I mean, they have fun, don't get me wrong. But the family, I get along, my family and I, we always get together. I go down there a lot. But it's not like it used to be. And a lot of them, family members, a couple of them have got to be big farmers and don't see them anymore. Me and my buddy farmed a mile from us. We enlisted in the Air Force. And we both wanted to be controlled tower operators. Well, he got it. I didn't. Some way my eyes didn't focus like it should. So that's why then I was an instructor, an aircraft and engine instructor. And every 2 weeks I had 20 people in my class teaching them aircraft, engine, all that other good stuff. And then, so I never left Texas for 5 years. He went overseas, and being an aircraft control operator really took a lot away. Very, very stressful. You grow up fast when you go into service, and I think service did a lot of things for me. They tried to get me to re-enlist. I said no. Then they tried to get for me to be a civilian instructor. I taught aircraft and engines. And I said no, I got to go back to Minnesota. Don't get me wrong, it was good. You grow up fast. Well, okay, so you've been on the farm here now, and worked a little bit. Now I go into the Air Force. Different ball game. I mean, things operate completely different. You have 8 weeks of basic training. You on the base. I was very fortunate. I had a car down there, so I lived off base during basic training, which is unusual. And the reason for that, oh, you got a car. Where are we going now? But and you meet a lot of people.
How'd you meet your wife?
Well, I went to school in Wolverton. She was from Comstock. That's 7 miles apart. So at noon, we have a car. A couple of us guys would drive to Comstock at noon. And then I started going with her, and she was Norwegian, but it was okay. And then you go back to different things. And Christmas Eve, Germans, oyster stew. None of the grandkids, So my mother would always do chili for them. I'd go to her folks in Comstock, lutefisk and lefse. Not real high on my list. But she had 3 sisters and a brother. The 4 sisters all passed away within 2 years. And then her brother just passed away about 5, 6 years ago. And I have a daughter that lives in Bloomington. I have 2 grandkids. Brandon is a broker, U.S. Bank in Bloomington. My granddaughter is in Pennsylvania, a doctor of oncology. And I lost my wife in 01 to cancer. I had a son, Rick. I lost him at 14 to throat cancer. So I just had my daughter and 2 grandkids.
And your kids again. How many kids again do you have?
Julie is my daughter. Brandon is the grandson. Megan is the doctor, oncology.
Is there something that you're really proud of in your life?
I'm proud of my kids and my grandkids. They are doing so great. Just wonderful what they're doing. And my daughter is doing great. She lost her husband about 15 years ago, and she works for, I don't know, some attorneys or whatever now. She's 67. And when are you going to quit? When are you going to retire? She said, I like working. What do you do? And don't ask me when I'm going to retire, because I don't know. I should have retired 20 years ago.
But you like it.
I enjoy it, and people are fun. I do stained glass, I do lamps, nothing fancy. I've done this for many years. It's kind of a winter project. My basement is finished. I have a big house, too big, but it's fun. And I do lamps. I showed you a couple of them there. I've got a big one I did, which is a duck. You can probably pull that up on my phone after a while and look at it.
Nice.
It's just fun. I enjoy doing it. And Ray Bernier, Leonard Montplaisir had the Ford dealership there, and I've known them for years. And so in 1959, I went to work for them. And we had a good time, because I knew the family, I knew everybody around. That was home to me. And I worked with them, and then I bought into there in '63. Probably not the smartest thing I did, but I did. And then in 1970, Ray Hogg had the Chevrolet dealership in Barnesville. He called me, he said, "Don, I'm selling my dealership. You want to buy it?" I said, "Yes, I do." So I went over, and I bought Chevrolet in 1970. And I kept that till 83. Had some very good years. Things then were completely different than they are now. We did not have all the technology that we have now. And we just had a good time. So that's, and then I sold out, got out. My son kept the shop. He ran it for a couple of years, and then we sold the building and stuff. And I went back to overalls. 1988, well, 84 to 88. And young overall, he called me in the office one day and he said, "Don, I'm going to sell my dealership if you want to start looking for something." Well, the next day I get a call from Lowell Nearson, and I've known Lowell before. So anyway, I want to talk to you. I said, "Why?" Just come on over. So Arlo Sandvig had the dealership in Kindred. And in March of '88, he came here. This was April now. So I get a call from Lowell, "Can you come over?" "Why?" "Just want to talk to you." So they took me to the Holiday Inn, showed me this beautiful picture of the rose on the wall, how sweet it would be working for Nearson's, and I fell for it. So Arlo and I managed there for, I don't know, 6, 7 years. And I'm still there. I enjoy it. I enjoy the people. A lot of changing, a lot of new technology, which when we were growing up, we didn't have. And I look at a lot of my customers are older, and a lot of the things that we must hook up on a new or pre-owned car, I don't want that. Well, we must hook it up, like OnStar, XM radio. I'm not going to listen to it, but it's a factor that we as dealers, to get credit on different things, we must hook it up for them. And once they have it, then they kind of like it. And what has happened with a lot of the technology, people get on the computers, gee, they know what their car is worth, what they're telling them, you know. Of course, they're telling them they're worth retail. So when they come in, "Oh no, my car is worth this," well, when we take a trade-in, we have to take it at a different value, so we can clean it up and do this and be able to sell it. But it's I guess, shouldn't probably say this, but people are probably, a lot of them, not as loyal as they used to be, because they got a computer, got this car down southern Minnesota. That didn't happen before. And you know, I look at a lot of things. A lot of people buy a lot of stuff online, which they do, and that's affected a lot of things. Well, grocery stores, Norby's, and I knew my buddy at Norby. They'd come in, measure them for a suit or a tux or for a wedding, then they'd go buy it online. And that hurts. The town of Barnesville right now, we don't even have a restaurant there. Barnesville is a very, very good, probably half the people there commute to Fargo, Moorhead, Fergus. Very good school system, very good church system. And smaller town, 2,700 people.
So do you have any advice that you'd like to give people?
I don't know if I can say what I want to say, no. Well, I guess, here's one thing. My mother, and I remember her saying, "Sonny," I must have been pretty young when she said that, "you treat people the way you want to be treated." I've never forgot that.
Do you think that's changed through time on how people are treating each other?
I think so. I think it has. You get closer to people. Like, I have a lot of repeat customers in the car business. I pulled up some stuff the other day from 2010 till now, the ones I sold. Amazing how many of those have passed away, a lot younger than I.
What kind of words of wisdom do you have?
I don't have any. The whole thing is trying to be fair to everybody.
Essentia Health, our presenting sponsor, is proud to bring you Words of Wisdom. And TV3 and LB Video Productions.